I don't know why you keep on doing that. All right, got it. Change the view, normal view. Thank you. Okay, so we started. Unbelievable. Shayichar Hamaisa. On page 4 of this Rav Miller Sefer. So it says over here, it says in the Sefer, we should explain, we should introduce 6 points concerning dedicating our actions to Hashem. Yeah, 6 things. 6. Echad mehem mahu yichar hamaysa. This is going to be the format of what the shar is going to be. The first thing is to define, what does it mean yichar hamaysa? Dedicating our actions to Hashem, what does that mean? Hasheni b'mayiyeh. How do you do it? So he says, Rav Miller says, over here on the second thing of how do you do it, he says when you're doing a mitzvah that's thinking, let's say you're thinking about Hashem. So there you don't have to worry, it's automatic. You're not doing it to impress anyone. Nobody knows what you're thinking. It says, Yichar hamaysa applies when you're doing an act. And people see you doing it, so you have to worry, am I doing it for Hashem? Or am I doing it also because my neighbor's looking? Hashlishi.
Is that one of those Lishma, Balishma things?
So again, yes, if you're doing it to Shalei Lishma in order to come to Lishma, so that's much better. But many times we do things not in order to get to Lishma, we're doing it because we want covered, let's say, and we're not doing it in order. Our goal is to get to the Lishma. I'm on the level where I do mitzvahs, but I do it with other reasons also. Shlishi, the third thing is Beis HaMaisa Chayavim Bay. Where does it apply? And which mitzvahs, which actions are we obligated Yichar Hashem? Varevi, we're on page 5. Kama mine mafsidav. What are the things that cause us, that prevent us from Yichar HaMaisa? That's number 4. Number 5 is Ech Ofane HaKosim Ben HaNefesh. How do I deal if I know what these mafsidim are? So how do I deal with them? What are the ways of removing them from the mind? Until it becomes possible that every act of Maisa that people do is truly devoted to Hashem alone. And here Rav Miller adds, that's the most important chapter. Don't think it's an easy subject, but it's more approachable than Bitachon, which was covered in the previous shar. He says the chamishi of what are the ways of removing these obstacles from the mind until it becomes possible that every act people do is truly devoted to Hashem alone. We're going to deal with it, I guess, Perik Chamishi. Vashishi, Shianisa B'machshava, how to be careful in controlling a stray thought. Lishma, remaining guarding against it, or Meshava, having full control over the mind. How do I focus? I guess when I do have such a different thought when I'm doing the mitzvah, I guess how do I control that? So he says here, if you're reading newspapers that put wrong ideas into your head, if you go places where you hear things that are wrong, you have to guard your mind against them. Your mind is your treasury, guard it. Unfortunately, most people never learn to guard their thoughts. Whatever comes into their heads enters their heads. You keep your head as if it was a wallet. You only put money and things of value in your wallet. You don't just put any waste paper that you find on the street. In your mind, too, you should put only valuable things. That's something most people never learn to do, to block out all unimportant and unnecessary things from the mind. And, Lamaisa, we live in a generation where we're bombarded by information, true information, false information, important information. It's just with the technology and newspapers and everything we read and see. It was much simpler many years ago if you lived in a little village. There wasn't much news going on. You focused on what you had to do. You weren't filling your brain with all kind of things. So our brains are being full. So Rabbi is saying here that we have to teach ourselves and train ourselves that not everything has to go in, and not everything has to be recorded, and not everything's important. And save your brain for things that are important. Of course, you have to know what's important and what's not. You have to have, a clarity of what you want out of life, and based on that, you make decisions. What's important, what's not important. I mean, when you read a newspaper, it's so full of stuff, and because it's made for so many different people. There's things there like if I would read a newspaper, the sports is totally, it's a waste for me. Totally. And there are other people that's where they turn to first because that's the most important thing in the news. So in the same way, we have to be selective of what we let into our brains. Okay. So Perikrishan, which is nice and short, Avamahu Yichar Amaisa Lukim, to define what does it mean I'm dedicating my action to Hashem hu hakavana b'nira u'b'nistar. It means both in my nira actions, in every public u'b'nistar or private act of serving Hashem l'shmoi. Hu hakavana b'nira u'b'nistar b'mais avodas halikim l'shmoi. That it's for the sake of Hashem, to gain His favor alone. And not to gain the favor of people. That's how he translates it, to gain His favor alone. And not to gain the favor of people. I mean, I would have translated is that I'm doing it only to His ratzon, but not so I should get Hashem's favor. But I want to do Ritzayit Hashem. My act should be an expression of what Hashem wants, and not what people want. He puts a little different slant on it. Now he says something that I'm not sure you understand. He says, before we go any further, we must understand that when the Chovos haLevavos talks about mitzvahs, he's not talking about filling or mezuzahs or tzitzis. He's thinking about the kind of mitzvahs that people don't even think of as being a mitzvah. For example, a mitzvah being grateful to Hashem when you have food to eat and you say, oh, I'm so happy, Baruch Hashem. The expression Baruch Hashem means almost nothing to the average person. You just say it, you don't even give it thought. If you really thought about Baruch Hashem means, you would consciously appreciate that it's Hashem who gave him the food and only Hashem. If he thought that way, he would be doing the mitzvah of thanking Hashem with Yichud HaMaisa. Now, I don't know. Yichud HaMaisa, to me, Yichud HaMaisa means we're talking about actions. We're not talking about Chovos haLevavos. He had said before already. Within my mind, I don't have to work on the Yichud HaMaisa because nobody knows what I'm thinking. So it can only be that if I'm thinking, here is Hashem, it's pure, right? I'm thinking about Abbas Hashem, it's pure because I'm not doing it for anyone else. They don't know. Right? And l'chor Yichud HaMaisa means in everything. When I put on tzitzis, do I put on very big tzitzis or long tzitzis so people should see? And besides that, I want to do the mitzvah in such a real way. I want it to be a real beged, not like just to be yaitza. You put on this small avra canvas that's just basically the right size. No, you want it to be that you're wearing it on a proper beged. But is it also that people should see my tzitzit? And I should be, people should look at me like I'm frum. So I don't know why Rav Miller says that that's not what it's referring to, but rather it's referring to like when I'm eating and I say, thank you, Hashem. I bench. Am I saying it really just to thank Hashem? Am I doing it also that other people should see that I'm thanking Hashem? I'm not sure why he takes it there. Marriage. The same thing's true when a person gets married. Why is he getting married? Is he thinking that he's doing it because everybody has to get married? It's what people do. Or is he thinking I'm doing it because Hashem commanded me to do it? Of course, if he's an ordinary person, he'll do it anyway. Rather than remain an old bach, he would marry even if it was not fully the Shem Shamayim. But he would have lost a great opportunity. So when one goes to the chuppah and he's learned Chovos haLevavos and he's walking down the aisle because Hashem said to walk in that direction, he's walking to serve Hashem. That's because he's learned this great principle. When I got married, I went to my Rebbe. I went to Rav Aaron Schechter, Yeshiva Chai Berlin. Said to me, I know I see people under the chuppah, they have long lists of people phenomenon for, they say Tillim the whole time. I said, I can't remember Tillim. What am I supposed to be doing under the chuppah? It happened to me that at Chaim Berlin, they happen to be against this whole idea of davening for a whole list of people under the chuppah. Because they feel it's your time, you're building your home here. It's a time for you to be davening for yourself. Sounds like a selfish thing, but they're very strong about that. And I remember he told me, I can't tell you what you should be thinking under the chuppah, but by the fact that you're asking, it's already a good sign that you understand that you should, that you're doing something that you need to be thinking about. And then it came out, you should be thinking that from your marriage should come Kiddush Shem Shamayim. Right? That's why you're getting married. For Kiddush Shem Shamayim, your house that you're gonna build should bring Kavod Shamayim.
What does that mean exactly? You're getting married for Kavod Shamayim as opposed to getting married to. I got a call. I missed the last minute. Can you help me refresh understanding that?
It means there are people that you're getting married because it's Ritzayin Hashem, and you want your marriage to be a link in Kavod Shamayim. It should bring that will serve Hashem. Your marriage should bring. People will say, how good it is to be a Jew. Look how beautiful marriage you have. You'll be able to do mitzvahs. You'll be able to have children. Everything that has to do with Torah. It should be a thing that's gonna. It shouldn't just be a party. It should be just a nice thing. You can enjoy yourself. Yeah, that's what it means. Working. When you go to work, what are you thinking? You may be thinking, what else could I do? If I don't work, I won't have money to pay the rent. But that's wrong. When a person takes the bus or the train to get to work, he should be thinking, I'm going to work to serve Hashem. I'm not doing it for my wife. I'm not doing it for my landlord to pay the rent. I'm doing it because Hashem says to go to work. Hashem wants me to work. I'm doing it as part of a commandment. That's called Yichud HaLev. I'm reading his words and I don't understand them. Rav Benovsky, maybe you can help me. I mean, it's a mitzvah to support your wife. It's a mitzvah to pay the rent. Mitzvah, right? You have a ksuva. How can you say that I'm not going to work to pay the rent? I'm not going to work. I'm not doing it for my wife. L'chura, that's L'Shem Shamayim also. If you say you're going to work, so you can have luxuries and you can live the life and buy a yacht, buy 5 cars. Okay, then you're not doing it L'Shem Shamayim. You're not doing it. But if you're doing it because you signed a rental agreement and now you're obligated to pay it, it's a mitzvah to pay it. It's a chiyuv to pay it. Yeah. Paragonovsky, what do you say? But you're muted. You're muted. Someone unmute him, please. No, you're muted. Oh,
I can only ask you to unmute. I can't.
I'm unmuted, it says.
Yeah.
You hear me?
yeah,
I think that's exactly what you're saying. In other words, I'm looking to make the money because I want to make money, or I'm looking because Hashem told me to do all these things to serve Him properly and to do what I'm supposed to properly. In other words, I go to work so I can I have do the mitzvah of supporting my wife and do the mitzvah of taking care of my kids and do the mitzvah of doing what Hashem wants. The shtadlus. It's a mitzvah to do the shtadlus. And
So
Hashem will
that's
give me
what
what I
he's
need.
saying. That's what he's saying. He's saying that I'm going to work and permitted me to go to work. He wants me to work. But it's not. I'm not doing it for my wife. I'm not doing it to pay the rent.
Well, I'm the mitzvah of my wife, the mitzvah of supporting my wife. I mean, I'm doing
Right. So what's wrong with saying that? What's wrong with saying to pay my
maybe
rent?
that's what he means. I don't think he doesn't mean that.
I agree with you. So Rabbi, you have it on page 8, working. Right? It sounds like he's saying otherwise. Like I understand that he says that a lot of things that we don't look like as mitzvahs are really mitzvahs, and we should be concentrated on doing it with Tzayid Hashem. He talks about when you wake up in the morning, you should wash your face. You're telling about Kiv. I think the kids of Shachar brings that. And the way you have to wash your face because you're at Selam Akim. I understand that there's Yichar Abaisa there also, but that there's not Yichar Abaisa in the other things. Like he had said before, putting on tefillin and wearing tzitzis. The sugya of Yichar Abaisa doesn't apply there.
I'm not sure that. I'm
Not thinking about maybe I don't know. All right, so that's number 1. So that was Perek Rishon. Perek Rishon. What is meant by dedicating our actions to Hashem? What kavana anira uvanistar b'maisa avodas alikim. Your intentions in every public and private act of serving Hashem, Lishma, doing it for His name, lagiel ritzoni bavad. That I would say it means to fulfill His rotzain, mebulti ritzon abrum, and not to fill the rotzon of people. Ramila translated a little different, to gain His favor alone, and not to gain the favor of the people. Perek Sheni. Perek Sheni is how to dedicate our actions to Hashem. How do I do it? And there are 10 conditions. How can we rise to the spiritual level? How do I do it? How do I dedicate myself to do that? An act to Hashem alone? The answer is by Asara and Yonim, 10 conditions. He says 10 subjects are really 10 big, difficult subjects. They're really frightening. The author wants you to know the whole Chovos haLevavos from the beginning until now. Without it, you have no foundation. Right? That's why he structured the Sefer with Shar HaBechina, Shar Avodas Alikim, Shar Bitochen as the foundation stones for Shar Avodas Hashem, Yichud Hashem. Right? That's what it's called. Yichud HaMaisa. Okay, if you're willing to undertake this task, you have to start building from the foundation. The foundation takes a long time, so before we can erect this edifice of Yichud HaMaisa, we have to learn all the things that are necessary. I'll give you an example of one of these things which the author will quote. We have to learn how to recognize all over the world and everything the plan and purpose of Hashem. So it sounds like these 10 conditions are going to be things that we've discussed until now. And these are the basis for being able to be Miyached Yamaisa. He says, right, you have to learn how to recognize all over the world and everything the plan and purpose of Hashem. Shara Bechina. When you open a peach, I think we've had this already, you find a pit. He says, the pit is so hard, you can't even break it with a hammer. Why is it so hard? What's a pit doing inside? We understand inside the pit is a seed. So why is the pit so hard? Because the plan is that you should not eat the seed. It's too hard for you to eat. Look at the pit, and you see it's composed of two halves pasted together. You can't break them apart. Planted in the ground, however, and the two parts open up, they separate, and the seed begins growing out as a tree. Why does it open up when it's in the ground and not before? Because it's glued together with a certain kind of paste, a formula that yields to the bacteria and fungi in the earth. The soil has a certain kind of effect on that paste. So you see plan and purpose here. You plan how that seed has to last until it's ready to grow, and until it's in the ground. It has such a hard shell around it, the pit of a peach. You break your teeth on it. Right? And there's a plan and there's a purpose. And it's designed. You see HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you see design, you see a tremendous power behind this peach that's growing. Just looking at the pit that you usually throw out. You don't even give it a second thought. Right? Everywhere you look, the world is full of plan and purpose. It makes you aware that Hashem's in control of everything. Why does an apple turn red when it's ripe? Why doesn't it turn red before? Because as long as it's sour, it's green. Only when it's soft and ready to eat, it turns red. Where does the color come from? There's no color inside the apple seed. Why does the apple fall from the tree when it's ripe? When it's unripe, it hangs on tight there to the tree. When it's ready to eat, let's go, because it has to go down to people who can't fly. Everything. You see the chokhmah, you see the plan, and you see the purpose in everything. If you learn, if you open your eyes, and makes us feel that we're actually seeing Hashem's acts. So this is only one of the subjects. The author wants us to know that we have to study all these subjects to get ready for our career of Yichud HaMaaseh. All right, so I think that these 10 things, some of them we're gonna be visiting ideas that we've discussed until now. He says, when these conditions are established in your mind, these words, like, then they become clear to you. So you're convinced of their truth, then you'll be capable of Yichud HaMaaseh Kihem Adnei Avodah, because they're the foundation. The Adonim were the Amudim of the Mishkan stood in the Adonim. The Adonim was the foundation. The Shoroshe Maseu, they are the roots for his acts. Because they support it, and they also are the root. From there it grows. Not only will these 10 conditions give a permanence to Yichud HaMaaseh, they will cause it to sprout and grow like plants that grow from roots. Ishlam Yehuda Behem L'Shem Akel, he will be able to perfect his single-mindedness in the service of Hashem. V'layifna Zulas, and you won't turn to any other motives. V'layikaver B'ladam, and you won't put any hope of reward for your service in anyone but him. V'layichavid B'em Zulas, your only attempt with these conditions will be Hashem's Ratzon. This means that everything a person does should have one intention, that Hashem should favor him. He should only do what Hashem wants him to do. And because of that, Hashem will be pleased with him. All right, so he repeats this. Sounds like a little bit of a Lishma, that I want to find Hashem's Ratzon. But, when we give it thought, it might be that it's going to be a long trip here and a lot of work. But I think we could all understand how basic this is to Avodas Hashem. Basic to Avodas Hashem, basic to our lives, that our lifestyles and why we're here. Right? We're all Ma'aminim b'nei Ma'aminim, we all know we're here. This is the Olam HaMaaseh. This is the Prosdor to the Traklin, to the Olam Haba. And if we give ourselves an honest look at our day, we take a spiritual inventory, how much of our day is aligned with that truth? And how much of the day is, call it waste? I'm not using the day. I may be going for other things. I may have other havanas, even if they're not averas per se. Let's say other pleasures. I'm not thinking about, is this aligned with Avodas Hashem or not? I mean, Ramila's spoken about many times. Me a lot only because I need to lose weight. Right? When you eat, how much of what are you eating? Do you just thought 1 minute, should I be eating this? Is this really healthy? Is this going to make me a better person, a healthier person? Sometimes a candy will make me a better person. I need a little sweet in my life. I need to relax a little. I need, I can't live so tightly with exactly, a quarter of an apple and it is okay. But how much of what I'm eating, how much about the grocery store, the aisle in the supermarket, how much of that is nothing to do with Avodas Hashem? In our David, I used to make fun of the fact that if you want to buy, let's say, deodorant or toothpaste, you could spend half an hour deciding on which. There's a whole aisle of each thing, and you got to decide what taste and what flavor. And it's like, doesn't seem that that's what's aligned with Avodas Hashem. So the need for this shower is overwhelming. To train me, whatever level I could reach. No one's perfect, but we don't want to be on the bottom. We want to be somewhere in the middle. Right? We want to be growing. But Granovsky used to say that depends on your direction, right? Maybe it's Yom Kippur moves. Am I going into Yom Kippur? Am I going into the supper after Yom Kippur? It's all Ben Teves. Where's my direction? Where am I going? So, Avodas Hashem also. I want to know that I'm at least a little aware of this sugya, aware of the fact that I should be thinking in my life. Why am I doing this act? Am I doing it as a mitzvah? Am I doing it because of Hashem? Or am I doing it stam for my own ritzon, to fulfill my pleasures, fulfill covered, whatever it is? Am I stam wasting? I'm not doing it for any reason almost. Just sitting around, couch potato, doing nothing. So it sounds like it's a fun shower. Okay. So therefore, we have 10 things, he says the haLevavos, to answer this question. How do we rise to the spiritual level of dedication to Hashem alone? So the 10 conditions. And tomorrow, Moses Hashem will do number 1. Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.